Okay, I don't want to take any more time away from what we have scheduled for tonight. So I just want to go by first introducing you guys to Marcia Cota. So who is she dealing with here? Who are we? And basically, this is the team. Many people who've been here a long journey with. They started out with Roxy, and now they've come along with me and Brittany, and we've consistently shown up. We've consistently got together. We consistently try to prove and improve our lives and improve the way that we do this business. So many of the regulars here show up pretty regularly for this training that I do once a week. I invite all my team. We're called Rock Stars. There's many teams below. And so you're going to meet some great people from all over the US, all over Canada, and that's who we are. So on that, let me introduce first off Marcia Cota. She is I think new still works, right? She's the new senior VP of North America in Monat. So she's covering all of the US, all of Canada, and I heard her talk. I've ran into her. I stole her badge from her at Monations at dinner. Well, I think she just misplaced it.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
and anyway, so I'll let her tell you more about herself and how she got here and etc. So I'll leave it to that.
All right. Thank you, Aaron. Hello, everyone. As Aaron shared, I'm Marcia. I don't know how many of you were at Monations. I can see some of your faces. I'd love if you turned your cameras on, but I understand if you can't or aren't in a position where you could do so. How many of you were at Monations? All right, some of you were there. So some of you have heard me speak on stage or have heard of me. As Aaron shared, I'm the new Senior Vice President for North America, but I want you to just know me as Marcia. Titles don't mean a whole lot to me, to be honest. I always say within a company, it doesn't matter who you are, right? Whether you work corporately, whether you work in the field, as long as we do kind of our positions, whatever that may be, it's really what makes the company succeed. So I just want you to know me as Marcia going forward. I have been now with Monat, I think I'm in my 6th week, which I started like 2 weeks before Monations, or maybe 3 weeks before Monations, which was a crazy time to start for sure. It was like, just jump right in, but feeling that excitement of Monations was pretty exciting. I'm going to share a little bit about who I am, and I apologize if you've heard this story, but I really think it's important just for you to be like, okay, I can relate to her. She might be a corporate person with our company, but she is relatable to all of us. And I love that I just saw that little guy kiss you, Jessica. That was so awesome. I have 3 not so little boys. They are all grown up, 26, 23, and 18. So seeing that just like kind of melted my heart a little bit.
He only does it if he's at home. At school, don't ask him to do it.
I totally get it. Totally. So I started in the industry 25 years ago when my now 26-year-old was 1 year old. And I started because I went to a neighbor's home party that she was having. I was very shy, like crazy shy. And my husband was the one who was kind of like, hey, she invited you to go. You really should go. Like, we just moved to this area. You should get to know the neighbors. So I went. I didn't really want to go. I mean, my husband and I at that time, we didn't have a lot of money. I had this little baby that I just wanted to spend all my time with. And so I did go and I fell in love with the kitchen gadgets. It was Pampered Chef. And really the best deal of the night was to get the kit. And so when I went up and asked the lady, what do I need to do in order to get the kit? And she said, well, you need to do 4 presentations, like 4 home parties in order to do it. I'm like, well, I'm not doing that. And she said, well, I will really show you. I'll show you how to do it. It's just 4, no obligation. You can keep the kit and that will be it. And so I tell you that story because she gave me my life's greatest lesson. And the reason that I'm here 25 years later, her lesson, what she taught me was, it's really important. What expectations do you set when you start someone in this business, right? Because by her setting those expectations, I found out later she could have just let me buy the kit. You know, that's what she could have done. But instead, she had me believing I needed to do those 4 shows, or some policeman was going to walk into my home and take all of those gadgets away from me, or something was going to happen. And so those 4 parties, because she coached me and because she believed in me and she saw something in me that I didn't see in myself, those 4 parties over the next 8 years would turn into 800 parties. And I would grow a very huge team, probably to an SED level in Monate's world. And after 8 years, honestly, the only reason I decided on going to the corporate side was because I got tired of cooking. I mean, it was home parties back then. We didn't have the internet. There was no social selling. I mean, there wasn't even texting. So, you know, really the only way you could be in front of people was home parties. So we live in a totally different world now. So I made the decision to go corporate because what I found in building a team that I didn't even know I wanted to build was I loved being successful. I'll never forget going to my first conference and watching people walk across the stage and think to myself, I didn't even want to go to that conference. It cost me a lot of money. And it was my upline who's like, you need to go, you need to go, you need to go. So I went and I got like mesmerized by all of it. And as I watched these women walk across stage, I said to myself, next year I'm coming back and I'm walking across that stage. I don't know what I'm going to do to walk across that stage, but I'm walking across that stage. And I did. And then what I found though, when I started to build a team was I felt way better helping others succeed than even my own success felt. So it felt great to be successful, but it felt even better. It filled my cup to teach someone the skills that I had learned and watch them be successful. And so I recognized that by moving to a corporate position, I had that ability to behind the scenes coach, mentor, develop all of those things, from programs, incentives, you know, everything behind the scenes that you can imagine with direct sales, I've been able to experience in that time. So I've been with a bunch of different companies. And so a lot of people say, well, why Monate? Why did you decide on making a move to Monate? And I'll share with you kind of what I shared with Ray, which, you know, might be not politically correct, but it's true. Like I'm a big believer of this industry because it changes lives. And the first life it changed was my own. And so I want this industry, you know, direct sales, that's what we're all a part of, but I want this industry to be alive and thriving for many generations to come, because of what it can do for people as far as the development of people. I mean, you know, personal development, professional development, the changes they can make in their lives, their family. There's so much, you all know it. And I said, you know, there's this thing, right? There's this stigma around direct sales that isn't always positive. And I said, Monate, you know, I've been watching them for 8 years and Monate is making direct sales kind of sexy again. They really are, you know, it's a community that people want to be a part of. You know, it's attracting a younger generation. And they just know they want to be a part of whatever it is that's happening. And I believe that Monate is successful for many different reasons. But the very first one is the people. It's the people. People want to be around the people that are at Monate. And then you have amazing products. Innovation is so important to the company, which is huge. I've only been using the products for 6 weeks. And I mean, I seriously, this isn't, I don't say this to sound hokey. Like I can see a difference in my hair. I can see a difference in my skin, you know, so the products work and they're innovative. The BB cream, seriously, it's like, I can just do the skincare routine and put BB cream on and I'm good to go for the day. It's kind of amazing. And so, you know, the people, the products, and then the compensation plan. It's an amazing compensation plan. It truly is. It's one that's, you know, I know a lot of compensation plans that are out there. It's one that's actually very easy to understand. And especially with the sales track to MB, it's one that really can be appealing to anybody. And so, you know, you're part of an incredible company. I want to share that with you. And I hope just by sharing a little bit about who I am, you can understand that everything you go through with this business, I've gone through, right? So all the highs, all the lows, it happens. I don't know how many of you, is this your first direct sales experience? Just raise your hand if it's your first direct sales experience. Okay, so maybe about half of you, of those that I can see. Half of you, it is your first sales experience. So here's what you can know about any direct sales company or any business. It's like this. That's what it is. It's like this. And man, life is easy when it's like this, right? It's like, this is so much fun, but nothing will stay like this forever. Never, ever, 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 ever. It's going to go like this, and then it's going to go like this, and then it's going to go like this. And guess what happens when it gets here? This is the Tony Robbins. If you were at Monations, this is winter, right? When it gets here, it's who can make it past here to go back here. Those are the succeeders. Those are the people with resilience and grit. This is where people quit. This is where people give up. And you can't. You've got to ride that next wave, you know, but it's what's inside of you that's going to make you do that. And so Aaron asked me to come on this call. I was on the SCD call, I think last week, or was that earlier this week? It was earlier this week. I think it was Monday. Man, that feels like a long time ago. It was Monday. And I shared a little bit about that, but I shared Tony Vans. You all probably know her better than I do. I'm getting to know her very well. I very much respect her and everything that she does. But she had me on a couple weeks ago with her team, and we were just having a real like heart to heart, you know, just they could ask me anything they wanted to, and I just answered them very candidly because that's just who I am. And so one of the things they said to me was, you know, a lot of us, we're not, you know, our business was green and growing a while ago, and it's not right now. And so, you know, when your business was like that, what did you do? So I'm going to share a little bit about what I did. And I want to start with just, okay, I want you to think about your own business right now. And you don't have to show me, but some of your businesses are going like this. Some of your businesses are going like this, and some of your businesses are going like this. All right. So just kind of self-identify in your mind, whether it's like this, or like this. And what I'm here to tell you is if you keep doing the same thing you're doing, you're going to get the same results. So if you keep doing what you're doing, you're going to go like this, you're going to keep doing this. If you're going like this and you keep doing what you're doing, you're going to keep going like this. And if you keep doing what you're doing and you're going like this, you're probably going to go like this, right? Nothing changes unless something changes. And I think that's really important for you all to know. And for those of you who maybe went like this and might be going like this now because you're in a winter season, winter doesn't last, it never lasts, but it really is, what are you going to do when you're there to change all of that, right? And here's the really big question that I ask of everyone, and I've asked it for years and years. Think back to when you were green and growing. Okay. Now think back to your day today. Did you do the same things you did today as when you were green and growing? When you think of one of those moments, are your activities still the same today as they were when you were green and growing? And that's a really tough question to ask. I see some of you shaking your heads. No, right? It's different now. And so other things to ask yourself, is my attitude the same today as it was when I was green and growing? Right? Do I have that same positive, excited energy that people just want to be around? They can't help but want to be around. I'm a little different now. I'm a little jaded now, right? Or do I have a lot of people on my team who maybe are in a not such a positive headspace because their businesses aren't green and growing? And that's just really tough to hear all day long, right? It just puts you in a different mental state. So if you're doing something different than you were when you were green and growing, it doesn't surprise me that you're not green and growing anymore. And the good news is you can change that. And I've had this experience before. So I go back to a moment when I was building a team and we were not thriving anymore, you know? And I recognized that as a team, we weren't thriving. It had to do with the economy. It just, you know, that was who we are. There were still teams that were green and growing, just like there is at Monet. There's lots of teams right now that are still very much green and growing. They're just doing different things than you're doing. And so what I realized, though, I had to take a really hard look at myself. And those were some of the questions I asked myself. What was I doing when I was growing? What was I doing when I felt so good about this business? I was on fire. Like, it was like everyone I talked to wanted to join simply because my energy was so great and they wanted to be around it, right? So I took a hard look at myself and then I made a really tough decision. I said, you know what I have to do? I have to I need to make some time in my day that is not with my team. So my team, I recognized what I was doing was my entire day was being filled with managing my existing team. And none of them were in a great place So we weren't green and growing for that reason. And actually it was not filling my cup anymore. My cup was kind of empty, to be honest. And so I just wasn't the same person that I was. And so I said to myself, what was I doing when I was succeeding? And what I was doing was I was bringing more people into my team. I was finding more leaders, right? You know that for everyone that you sponsor as an MP, you're gonna have to sponsor whatever that conversion rate is for you. I knew for me, if I sponsored 10, I'd find a leader in one of them. If I sponsored 50, I'd find a director in one of them. So, you know, whatever that conversion rate is, I knew that when I was at my best, I was constantly having new people join. And you know what it's like when a new person joins. They don't know anything, but man, are they excited. I mean, you can tell them to do anything and they will do it, right? And so I said to myself, you know what? I have to step away from my team and I have to determine what is it that I want? What are my goals going to be? So I set this big, hairy, scary goal. Okay, it's going to scare you guys. You're really going to scare you guys. I'm not telling you need to do it. But it's what I did. It's what I did. So I decided that for the next 100 days, I was going to sponsor one new person every day to my team. So every morning when I woke up, that was my only goal for the day as far as my business went. I was going to add one new team member to my team every day for the next 100 days. Now, what did I have to do in order to do that? I had to be in front of enough people every single day, right? Back then it was home parties. That's the way that I had to be in front of a lot of people. So I booked a lot of home parties in order to make that happen. And I was talking to everyone, like anyone I talked to over the course of the day, I was talking to them about the business. And here's what happens, right? When you're looking for MPs, you find VIPs. When you're looking for VIPs, you find people who just want to purchase the product. So over those next 100 days, by the way, I did my goal. I added 100 people to my team in 100 days. And at the end of the 100 days, my business had completely transformed. You know, I had earned every incentive. I'd rank advance, but my team got on board too. They got excited about it. I didn't start to talk about it at first, but after the first 10 days, when I'd had added 10 people to my team and I was shouting them out to the rest of the team, hey, welcome this person, welcome this person, welcome this person. They're like, wait a second, like, where are all these people coming from? I'm like, I'm finding them. That's who's joining our team. And they started to feel the excitement and they started to do the same thing. And what happened? Lots of rank advancements, right? So many of us earned so many things that fourth quarter because of that one decision. And so what I've learned along the way is whenever your business doesn't feel great, what it needs is new. It needs new people. It needs new growth. And so, you know, I really challenge all of you with, if you have goals of where you want to be, or you were somewhere and you're not there now, as far as maybe your paid as rank goes, you're not where you are, then you just have to determine what are the activities that you need to do in order to get there. And just know that you can. You have the people, the products, you have the compensation plan, you have everything you need to continue to be successful. It kind of goes back to that video we watched at the very beginning. What do you have inside of you? What can you dig deep into? And what I've learned along the way is you have to have a why. What is your strong why? Why are you here? Maybe why you started is different than why you're here today, but that's pretty powerful when you think of that. What is it? What is it that keeps you where you are? For me, it was my family. I recognized that I could do what I was doing, stay home with my kids, raise a family, and have this amazing business where I was impacting other people's lives. And so I challenge you with all of that. And I know that's a lot, and I'm going to stop talking because I want to hear from you. And I want to hear from you from how did that make you feel? Or how are you feeling about your business? Or do you have questions? Do you have things going on within your team or your business that I can just hopefully share some insight or give you some coaching? So I'm really just going to open up the floor to whatever it is that you want to say. I don't know if hands are up. I see a hand, Beth and Angelina, but they might still have their hands up just because I asked the question of who was at Monations, I think. but maybe the panel.
Yeah, it was actually me. I have a question.
Yeah, hi Beth, absolutely.
Hi. So my question is, like, I just relocated, and I feel like I do know that I'm in my rightful location. I'm surrounded with people. My skin is getting thicker, but I'm surrounded around people who sometimes they're just like so numb to the whole MLM idea.
Mhm.
And with the times that, the difficult times that we're in right now, and it's like, from your experience from being in the company in MLM for so long, how did you deal with overcoming, objections, the lack of support, and just keeping your belief alive every day? Like, what tips can you pass on to me and everyone else on this call?
I think that's great. And we could do a whole nother session on overcoming objections, because there actually is a really great kind of formula for helping to overcome objections.
And actually, sorry to cut you off. It's
Yeah.
just like, when you've been in it for a while now, it can get discouraging when you don't see the results that you thought you were going to acquire. So I just want to throw that in. How do you overcome this?
Absolutely, Beth. Thank you for that. I think your belief is a huge part of it. Your belief in what you're doing, your belief in the industry, that if people can see that shining from you and you truly believe it, it really does help to squash the naysayers. And sometimes you go through periods in your business, I went through it too, where you kind of forget about that, and you have to remind yourself, right? You have to, and for me, it was always going to the people who were succeeding, or going to the people I looked up to and being like, hey, help me, I'm in a really tough spot right now. And that really helped. I think the other thing is, it's never about me. So maybe it was at the beginning, but when I think about all the lives that I've seen impacted by this industry, I mean, how can you not believe in this industry, right? You can take anybody, it doesn't matter. I mean, I have a high school education. If you want, it doesn't matter what, I got married as soon as I got out of high school. It doesn't matter what your background is. It doesn't matter what your education is. Nothing matters, right? It's just what you're going to do with this determines where you're going to be with this. And so I think when you have that belief inside of you, you develop that thick skin of recognizing people are usually fearful of what they don't know enough about, right? So quite often it's just that they've had a negative experience. Honestly, I'm to the point now where I almost feel sorry for them because they just don't know what they don't know.
Yeah.
So a great question to ask, Beth, and it depends on the circumstance of what you're in, is to say to them, have you had a negative experience in the past? Or what is it about this industry that makes you pause, right? Like just not being afraid to talk about it can really help you.
True. Yeah. Thank you.
You're so welcome. I hope that's helpful.
No, it was
Awesome.
refreshing. Thank you.
Who else? A comment on what I've said so far, or wanting to share their own experience right now, or anything?
I guess I was thinking as you're going through it, and as Beth talked, that to get 100 people on as market partners, you had to fail all day long. Talk about failing and dealing with it and pushing through every single failure.
One of the best exercises that my upline did with me was the 100 no's. And it was like celebrating every no that you received, because every no is one step closer to a yes. And so we actually at that time had a piece of paper with 100 no's on it, and it was phone calls back then. And for every phone call where you were rejected, you were supposed to go, yay, I got a no. And you crossed off that no, because it was very powerful. In every no leads to a yes. And the other thing I really had to learn was, when people say no to you, you can't take it personally. They're saying no to what you're offering. They're not saying no to you. Right. And so what I've always learned too is to ask another question. And that question is that a no forever? Is that a no for just not, is that just a not right now? Because if it's a not right now, I'd love to check back with you in 6 months to see if this is something we could talk about then. And quite often people will say, yeah, I'd love to hear from you in 6 months. They usually never say it's a no, not ever. That's very rare for that to happen. And then it just gives you another contact to reach out to. And what's important for that is that you're tracking it somewhere so that you do really reach out. So rejection, the big thing about rejection is to not take it personally. And I think the only way you can sometimes get through that is by getting lots of no's that are directed at you.
The other thing that you talk about is being in a time where you're like this, your business is like this. The reality is, and there's people on this call that I know their business is like this right now, regardless of whether we're in winter from, was it Tony Robbins or Todd? I don't remember, right? It's whether your business feels like this or whether it feels like this. I think it is more about how you're reacting to it, how you're showing up, because if somebody's business is like this, that means the only difference is they got the same products, they got the same internet, they got the same economy. What's the difference? You know, and so I know one of the people on the call said to me, yeah, well, you know, I only got 8 VIPs this month. I'm like, 8 VIP. I was like, you guys want to raise your hands about getting 8 VIPs this month? Oh my God, right? You'd go, oh my gosh. And so it's the mindset. This person thought her business was like this, when everybody else would say, oh my God, 8 VIPs, I want to get that too. And I want to change my business with that. So I don't know if you have any thoughts about that.
Well, no, you've said it right? Like there still are lots of people are hugely succeeding in this business. And it's what they're choosing to do right now. It's that belief feeling, right? So if you believe things are bad, generally things are going to be bad. If you believe things are good, then generally things are going to be good. And so it really is that belief pattern. There was something else that you said that I wanted to comment on, and it's gone right now. But it's amazing how once you start, like that person who did 8 VIPs, is she on here right now? Yay, Jessica. That is, do you take a moment at the end of every day to celebrate something, right? Because that's powerful too, when you can celebrate the small wins that you have. And when you think about consistency is key. So if you're consistently adding VIPs, if you're consistently adding MPs, whatever that looks like, consistency is key in the long run. And you should absolutely be celebrating that. Pam asked, can you talk about some of the things you did besides parties to find people? Here's the thing. I got to the point where no one was going to pass me without me having a conversation with them. You meet people all the time, and sometimes you have to create those opportunities to meet people as well. But what I realized very, very early on, and I have a story for you around it too, was that I got to the point where it was like, if I passed someone on the street and I didn't talk to them in some way, shape, or form, it was like I had done them a disservice. Right? Because who knows what me talking to them could have done for them in their lives. And then this more selfish part of me was like, if I don't talk to them, somebody else will. And then they're going to become their leader or their director instead of mine. So that was the selfish piece of it. But I saw it happen. I saw it happen within my own team. Thank goodness it was within my own team. But I've also seen it happen at a conference as well when I was a leader, where someone I knew was at the conference. I'm like, what are you doing here? And she's like, I'm a consultant. I'm like, you are? I said, I just never thought that would be something you would want to do. And she was like, well, you never asked. Touche. She was right. And so this other time I was driving down the street and there was a lady pushing a stroller. And in my mind, I'm like, I need to talk to her. Like, she's probably on mat leave. She'd probably like to stay home with her baby. That's what I'm doing. I should talk to her. And I had this mental thing going on in my head, like, no, that's ridiculous. Like, I'm on a busy street. Why would I pull over and walk back and talk to her? And I did it. She became one of my top leaders and one of my best friends. And so you just never know when you're going to miss an opportunity for that person instead of you when you don't find a reason to talk to them. So I believe that you can find reasons to talk to so many people over the course of the day. You can go to locations where there are people, and you get, at first you're going to just feel awkward because you're not going to know what to say. But the more you talk, the better you're going to be at doing it. So here's what I tell you this only because, again, the more people you talk to, the more comfortable you're going to be. So when I started, my upline helped me with this exercise of how many people I needed to talk to in order to get a yes. And it was for becoming a team member. So at the beginning, I had to talk to 30 people in order to get to one yes, because you're not very good at it, right? So you don't really know what to say. But as I fine-tuned my skills and learned how to listen, learned how to ask the right questions, learned how to overcome objections, learn when to offer the opportunity, my conversion rate today is 1 in 4. So for every 4 people I talk to, I can get them to join. And that, I think that comes down to belief. It comes down to just doing it over and over and over again. I mean, when I was doing that 1 a day, it kept happening after the 100 days, just because that was what I was so used to doing. And it's such an incredible feeling when you can, become so good at a skill that you get really, really good at it. How did you start that conversation with her? With the baby stroller, I talked about the baby. I'm like, hey, I saw you're pushing a stroller. Just, I have kids of my own at home. Start a natural conversation with someone. There's you start natural conversations with people all the time. And then it's finding that moment to link what you do into the conversation, however that might look. And my relationship building is really important. I'm not going straight into the business with random people, but you can find a way to link it in, whether it's through samples, whether it's through, hey, I'm doing this demonstration at my house. I'd love for you to join us. It's some girls in the neighborhood, whatever that looks like. There's always a way to invite people to hear more about what it is that you're doing. Okay.
Yeah, if you don't talk to that person, like let's put it this way. When even me, the old bald creepy guy, tries to find a way to talk to somebody, and if I do, there is a way to talk to everybody. Every single person you pass, there's a way to talk to somebody, right? It's whether or not you'll be successful at it or not. But every single attempt got you that step closer. And if you think about it, you basically said, if I wanted to find 100 people, I had to meet 30 new people every single day. Correct. To get a yes.
Yes.
30 people every single day. When you guys are out there walking on purpose, you go out in the car and go to Starbucks or go to the store or go to the mall or wherever you're going next, some reason you've stepped out of your world, your comfort home, your home in COVID land, and now you're out in the world. You can take the opportunity to meet somebody. It's easier online, so you don't miss somebody loving on your post or whatever. But every single one of those is that opportunity to learn. And how fast do you think you went from 30 to 0 to 1 to closer to 4 to 1 or 1 to 4?
It takes a while, right? Because you're learning with every conversation that you have, the way to have a most effective conversation. It was very real. It wasn't pretend. It wasn't fake. It was really trying to understand who that person was and if they had a need for what I had to offer. And so I always went into the conversation with, I would love for this person to join my team. How do I make that happen? But sometimes that wasn't the right fit, right? So sometimes the right fit was to end up just giving them a sample and having them try getting their phone number so I could follow up, whatever that looked like. And so, I think that's important to recognize as well. And even, it's as simple as, you all have teams, so you should all be having coaching calls with members of your team. I would go sit in it's Tim Hortons in Canada. let's call it Starbucks in the US. So I would sit in, I'm in Canada. So I would sit in the coffee shop, and that's where I would have my team coming in every half hour. And I had a little display on the table. I would sit there as long as, you know, they didn't kick me out of the coffee shop, which they never did, because I was always giving them samples too. And so it was also just another way, right? How do you meet random people? How do you do that? You just have to put yourself out there to be able to do that. I think, you know, we live in this post-pandemic world now, which makes it, sorry, I see a weird glow outside my door or outside my window. We live in this post-pandemic world where people got really comfortable with just being online, and people, like, they're craving interaction with people now, you know? And I think that's, you know, that is really important. It's just, it's like a human need of what you want. But I also think there's also, back then, I didn't have the internet. I didn't have social media. When I see some of the things that market partners are doing on social media, it's incredible. When you think about how they're building their brand, how they're being authentic, how they're being real, they're sharing their life, but they're also sharing their love for Monat and all things Monat, and their love for the product. You know, I think they're also sharing, they're creating so much content that many of you can take advantage of too. I think that's just, it shouldn't be the only way, but I think that's another way, you know, that's an advantage that people have right now. And, you know, I think what I've shared with a lot of teams since I was a leader, right? Actually, it just popped up in my memories 10 years ago, because the first corporate company I was with was actually Avon, and they were kind of new to team building back then. It was about 2008, maybe 2007, 2008. Whoa, that's a long time ago. And so Karen Edwards was her name, and she was the first leader that I gave this challenge to, and she did it. And she still talks about it today. I saw her at a direct sellers day in Toronto last week. And she brought it up to me. She's like, remember when I did 100 in 100 days? I'm like, well, it's interesting. I'm talking about that again now with the new company that I'm with. And so, but here's what I want you to think about. I chose to do it on my own. But then after I chose to do it on my own, I would bring it back like once a year, and we'd do it as a team. So as a team, my entire team, we would give this challenge to each other of, hey, let's add 100 people to this team over the next 100 days. So it wasn't necessarily my personal goal anymore. It was a team goal. And that might be something that you could wrap your heads around depending on the size of your team and what could that look like. And so what we would do at the beginning is we would, you know, meet as a team and determine, okay, what's your goals? How many are you going to get in the next 100 days? How many are you going to get? We would write it down, right? So it's 6 or it's 7 or it's 3 or it's 5. It's your personal goals. And then we'd see if it added up to 100. And that was everybody's commitment. And then we tracked it. We recognized it. You know, when everyone got to 20, when we got to 20, I did a draw for something great. When we got to 40, I did a draw. I kept it alive for 100 days. And really, you know, what you focus on and what you get your team to focus on, they're going to do. So, you know, that's something, if you think, this could help my team, right? You could think about doing it as a team goal. What would you say the daily non-negotiables that we should all be doing, big or small? So I would say the daily non-negotiables would be, how many new people are you going to talk to a day? Just about Monat in general. Is it 3 new people a day? I think that's super manageable. That should be your bare minimum of what you're doing. Is it 5 people a day? Is it 7 people a day? Is it 10 people a day? What does that look like for you? And I think for everybody, it's different, to be honest, but really it's about that one activity is going to be like what helps you be successful in the future. I think so often, you know, a company like Monat grew so quickly. It grew quickly before the pandemic, and then the pandemic hit. And I know before the pandemic, there were some, you know, some things that happened within the company that weren't great. And then the pandemic hit, and it was like, I think the company went like this, it went like this a little bit, pandemic hit, it went like this, a little bit like this now, and it will continue to do this. Every company does that. But it truly is what you do during those downturns that is going to make the difference for you as a company. Oh, I know where I was going with that too. So many people grow to a level, And I think at this company, probably, I would say it's probably directors. You know, you get to be a director and then you're like, okay, I've arrived. I'm going to sit back. You can never sit back with this business ever, ever, ever. You are constantly going to be churning through people. That is just the cycle of the business. That doesn't mean that you should never go back and talk to some of those people you've lost. You should talk to them. Their lives change. Maybe the now is better. If they're going to come back though, you should ask them, what are you going to do differently this time than you did before? Right? It's like, you know, that I go back to what I shared with you for the person who brought me into direct sales and the expectations that she set for me. If I'm going to bring a new market partner into my team, I would say to them, you know, but she said to me, well, I just want, you know, really, I'm really just most enthused about the discount I'm going to get as a market partner. I would say to her, well, then you know what? We have a VIP program. That's the best opportunity for you. Our market partners, they intentionally sell and share the product. That's what we do. So, you know, when you think about what are the expectations that you set when you sign someone up? Are you just super excited to have them on board? Are you setting them up for success? Are they doing the things that you did in order to grow? I think our Smart Start is incredible. Even if you just get them through that program, you're going to get them off to a really strong start. Yeah. I like the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 and just do it. So true. So true. Any other questions, comments? Angelina, I don't know if your hand is up or if it's just up because you had it up before.
Yeah, that's from before.
Okay.
But thank you.
You're so welcome. Anyone else? Any questions? Anything else I can support you with your business? How many of you are directors? Not yet. Right? For everyone whose hands aren't up, we're just going to say not yet. Just not
You know
yet.
what? I'm gonna tell you, we're gonna, a little truth time, right? There are more people on this call than just me that were director or were super close to director, and they've gone through this in their business, you know what I mean? And the difference I see in many of the people that are on this call is they are doing the activities that are going to change their business back to this.
That's
And
awesome.
I see it happening, and I'm just like, you know, you get excited for them because you just, oh my God, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. And, you know, and even the people who are just starting out have the opportunity for all of it. It's really just how you show up, you know, if you want it, is your why strong enough, things like that.
Yeah. And it's always too soon to give up. Always, always, always. You know, and the thing is, if you've been close or if you've had it and then lost it, you've got experience on your side. You know what you did to make you successful, or you know what you did in order for you to not be so successful. And you can change that based on that. What's the definition of insanity, right? Doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. You have to change something to change something. And so look at some of the people in this company that you aspire to be and reach out to them. I mean, I love that about this industry as well. People are always willing to help each other out. You can always find someone who is willing to help you out. And so if you look up to someone in this industry, reach out to them. Be like, hey, give me your like top 3 tips of what I should be doing every day in order to be more like in order to have a business that's more like yours. If you were going to start now with Monet, what would you do to get to SED? I would sponsor one person a day. And I would teach them how to do the same thing. I would teach them like it's all about, you know, that's how you grow. And here's the thing, it's a mindset piece, right? So VIPs are super important too. But when you look for MPs, it doesn't mean that everyone you meet is going to become an MP. When you look for MP, you naturally find VIPs, you naturally have sales, and you earn all of the things along the way. So that would be my focus. So sponsor and get them through Smart Start and teach them how to do the same thing. Sponsor and get them through Smart Start, like and keeping it very, very simple. I think quite often, I think that, you know, there is so much information available to all of you with Monet. I mean, so much information, but you have to, there's 3 words that are really important to someone when they're starting in this industry. It's simple, fun, and rewarding. And you have to keep it simple, fun, and rewarding. If you start to get it too complicated or too messy or too much for someone, you know, upper level leaders can handle the messiness or but you can't if you're new. You just want it simple, fun, and rewarding. So keep it that way. Yes, I always talked about the business first. And then if that wasn't a fit, I would move to customer. But not at the beginning, right? That took some skill to get there. But my mindset was always, I really want you to have me. I want to have you on my team. That's what I want. And then it was it was listening to them and learning what was their need and how could the Monet business opportunity or whatever company it was be a right fit for them. But really, don't discount the power of you. You want people to want to be with you. You want people to want to be on your team. You want people to know, like, and trust you. And then you need to see something in them that they don't see in themselves. How did you get people to commit to come to your house parties or events? Well, quite often I had to get them to open up their home to me, coming to their house and meeting with their friends. Don't discount the power of referrals. If someone said no to me, then I would often say, I would, ask, is it a no, not right now, or no, not forever? But I would also say, if it's not for you, who do you know? Like, can you think of someone that this might be a right fit for, or who might be interested? But in order for me to, it goes back to that know, like, and trust piece, right? It's like being that authentic person that you are, really sharing, why is it that you love what you do? Or why is it that you love the products? Or why is it that you love the team, the community, making sure they understood, they could feel that from me, and just wanted to hear more based on my attitude and who I was. Those people, right? You meet those people and you're like, I want to go out for coffee with them, or I want to have a glass of wine with them. I want to hang out with them. And how do you become that person, right? Like, how do you you want people to want to be around you?
A really weird thing that for me, it feels weird that it works is when Brittany talks to somebody, she, instead of giving them samples, she gets them to come to her house and wash their hair for them. And the minute you're washing somebody's hair, you got like an hour with them discussing it, styling it, all of that. They're a VIP or their market partner by the time it's done. And it's amazing to me how easy it is once you start talking about the great hair, the great products, the great samples, getting somebody to come to your house to wash their hair is not hard. The biggest thing you had to do was ask them. You know what I mean? And you had to stop them and meet them and ask them, for all of this to be successful.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, you can always, if you're like, oh, I just don't know about like stopping strangers on the street, you might not be there yet. So if you're not there, start with, the people who which sometimes the people it can be even harder than the people you don't know. I ended up getting to a point where it's like, oh, I'd rather way more talk to strangers about what I do than my friends and family, but so look for those type of events where you can be promoting your product. There's enough women's events, networking events, farmers markets or fall fairs. There's enough places where you can set up and, you're naturally there promoting your product, and it makes it a little easier to talk to people when you're doing things like that. Any last questions or thoughts? Anyone like, hey, I'm going to do this with my team. I'm going to like, maybe it's 100. We have about 100 days left before the end of the year. Not quite 100 days, but can you imagine? I want you to think about this. Think of where your business would be at the end of 2022 if that's what you did for the next 100 days. Think of what your team would look like. Think of how you would feel, but even more than that, think of the 100 people who you had an opportunity to impact in one way, shape, or form. Think about the mom that you talked to that all of a sudden has more money to spend on Christmas this year, or, there's so many things that you can, you know how you've impacted people's lives along the way because of sharing Monat with them. 92 days left. Yes, I can't wait to be in Calgary in November. And I will be in some other locations as well. But yes, Amanda, I can't wait for that as well. There you are. I was looking for you. There you are. So you will be at Diana's event. Yes, cool.
So I'll tell you what, anybody, I would love to get together and talk with anybody who wants to take this challenge and run with it. I'm going to talk to Brittany and we're going to work on doing this ourselves. And I know there's some chats that we've been starting up and doing different things with, but anybody wants to message me and I'm happy to go side by side with you. It's all, I'll come back to Calgary. I'd love to come back to Calgary. It's maybe in March or April. But no, I would love to do it with anybody who wants to do it. Go ahead and message me and I'll support you guys.
And I just popped in the chat my Instagram. Instagram, you can find me on Facebook. I mean, I'll put my email address in here. And I truly mean that if you ever want to reach out, if you have a question or anything that we've talked about, please don't hesitate to reach out. People fill my cup. So you will find I'm a pretty good communicator. If you reach out to me, I'm going to reach back out to you as well. So please don't ever hesitate to reach out. I truly mean that. Erin, thank you so much for having me on today.
I loved having you on. Thank you so much. You were so informative. And I think that I'll save this and I'll post a replay of it. And I think there's going to be so many people that'll find value in what you've offered here for everybody today. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much. Bye, everyone. Have a good night.
Bye, everybody. Take care.